Friends, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to be here this evening in the heart of Little India to open our new Indian Heritage Centre. It celebrates the many contributions of the Singapore Indian community to our society. It reminds us of the importance of our heritage, which anchors our sense of place and our identity in a rapidly changing world. And it is a timely birthday gift to Singapore on the 50th anniversary of our independence, which also happens to be the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties between Singapore and India. So I'm very glad to have the Indian High Commissioner with us here today. The Indian community adds to the richness of our multiracial and multi-religious society. They are an important strand in the rich tapestry of Singapore life. And it's a relationship which goes back to historical times when early Indian traders established trade links with Southeast Asia, including Singapore. And they introduced Indian religions, ideas of governance, and political systems, which led to the establishment of Hindu and Buddhist kingdoms all over Southeast Asia, like Angkor, Srivijaya, Majapahit. Majapahit was in central Java, eastern Java, and in fact, Singapore, old Singapore, perhaps called Temasek then, was a tributary of the Majapahit Empire. Of course, even the name Temasek or Singapura has Sanskrit roots. In modern times, the Indian community has been in Singapore ever since Stamford Raffles. In fact, when Raffles arrived in Singapore in 1819, he was accompanied by 120 sepoys. Sepoys were units of Indian soldiers which were led by British officers. And he also had a bazaar contingent. I discovered this today looking up our National Heritage Board website. The bazaar contingent consisted of washermen, tea makers, they are called chaiwalas, milkmen, and domestic servants. So the Indians have been here from the beginning, and they have continued to arrive over the years, drawn by jobs and opportunities, and sometimes necessity. They came from all different backgrounds as builders, businessmen, artists, even a few prisoners. And they brought with them their customs, skills, and their trades. And they've left a permanent mark on Singapore. For example, much of Singapore's early colonial architecture was built by Indian labor, in fact, Indian convict labor, including the Istana and including the Catholic Cathedral. And in our short 50 years as a nation, many notable pioneers have come from the Indian community. Mr. P. Govindasamy Pillai, popularly known as PGP. He came here in his teens. He worked in a department store. Later, in true enterprising spirit, he bought over the department store and he established his own chain of stores called the PGP stores. Or Navroji Mistry, one of the earliest Parsi pioneers who came here in 1912. He made his fortune selling soda water and gave a large part of his wealth to charity. In 1952, the year I was born, he donated $1 million, a princely sum, even now, but more so then, to build a pediatric wing at the Singapore General Hospital, the Mistry Wing. Later, the Mistry Wing became the National Heart Center, and now that has moved out and has become the Diabetes and Metabolism Center, which cares for patients young and old. Or Mr. G. Sarangapani, founder of Tamil Murasu, a champion of social causes who believed fervently in the future of Singapore. He advocated for Tamil to be recognized as one of our official languages, and he encouraged Tamils to make Singapore their home. Or, most eminent of all, Mr. S. Rajaratnam, who penned our national pledge and was unwavering in his visionary conviction that we must be one united people, regardless of race, language, or religion. And there have been many others as well, Mr. Hunma Somapa, Rajabali Jumaboy, etc. We may not remember their names, but their names are inscribed in many places all over Singapore. South Asian culture is one of the most ancient and diverse cultures in the world. There are Tamils, Malayalis, Telugus, Sindhis, Sikhs, Bengalis, and many others. If you look at the faiths, there are Hindus, Muslims, Christians, and still a few Buddhists, Jains, and others still. If you look at it geographically, there are South Indians, North Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Kashmiris, each a slightly different and sometimes a very different identity, and each with different languages, religions, dances, music, architecture, and food. And many of them are represented in Singapore and have expressed their heritages and their culture and their traditions and their life customs here in Singapore, and many of them here in Little India. But despite this rich diversity, in Singapore, the Indian community comes together for the common good of the community, as they have done in building this heritage center, which showcases Indian culture and arts, especially as manifested in the Singapore Indian experience. For example, I haven't been inside yet, but they tell me, and I'm looking forward to seeing these things, the Heritage Center has a late 19th century Chettinad doorway, which gives an idea of how families in Tamil Nadu used to live. There's another 19th century piece, a mosque facade from the Multan region in Pakistan, which reflects the religion and the architecture of the Indian Muslims. And there are also many personal artifacts, like a gold necklace with French and British influences, contributed by the descendants of Gnaga Pragasam Pillai. He was an early Singapore trader from Pondicherry. Pondicherry is in India, on the east coast, and it was a French territory for nearly 300 years. In order to distill 4,500 years of rich history, to connect the dots from India to Singapore, and to tell stories of Singapore Indians in one Indian Heritage Center is no mean feat. So I'd like to thank the Indian community for supporting this project. The storyline was the result of consultations with more than 50 Indian organizations, associations, and groups, and walkthroughs by many individuals. And almost half the artifacts on display within the thematic galleries are either on loan or donated by members of the community. And I'd like to thank also those who have worked hard to make this a reality, Minister Iswaran and the IHEC Steering Committee and subcommittee members, and also his predecessor as chairman, Dr. Balaji Sadasivan, who started this project and who was quite an expert in the subject, and in fact wrote a book on Indian history, which was published posthumously after his widow completed it after he passed away. And very happy to have Mrs. Sadasivan here today for the moment. Others on the committee included the Concept and Content Subcommittee chaired by Gopinath Pillai, the Fundraising Subcommittee chaired by Chandra Das, and the Design and Construction Subcommittee chaired by Mr. R. Jayachandran. I'd also like to thank the NHB for their curatorial and programming expertise and access to national artifacts, to all the volunteers and members of the community who have chipped in so many ways, and for your hard work and support and generosity, which have made this jewel of a heritage center a reality. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much.